Hello, everyone. My name is Rabbi Stern, and normally I run a channel here where I review YouTube videos, where I react to things. And that's normally very fun, but the news I'm seeing, I'm not going to react to anybody else's channel. I think I just wanted to come here and speak to any of you. I don't have many followers. I'm not a very widely followed account here on YouTube. Don't even know if YouTube will let me keep this video up. But I wanted to talk about what's happening in Israel, in Gaza, in Eretz HaKodesh, the Holy Land. I don't know what to say exactly beyond how shocked, how horrified I am by what's happening. Um, for many of you who follow the news, I'm sure you've noted that Saturday morning, uh, early Saturday morning, while Jews in Israel were celebrating the end of Sukkot, the holiday of Simchat Torah, and Shabbat, times when we are not usually on our most alert for what might happen, in terms of violence and things. Hamas terrorists, hundreds of them, infiltrated Israel. They murdered over 260 Israeli civilians, as well as civilians from other countries, in at a music festival. And in total, at this point, about 1,000 Israeli civilians have been murdered. Many of them in their homes. Elderly people have been burned alive. In Kfar Aza, a place I've been many times, that was recently retaken by the Israeli Defense Forces from Hamas. Babies were murdered and beheaded in their cribs. Women have been raped. People of all ages and genders have been murdered. Civilians, people like me, people who were going about their quiet, sleepy Saturday morning and were suddenly met with horror. Now, Hamas is a terrorist group. Hamas is a terrorist group that has been allowed to run the Gaza Strip as a police state, as a one party totalitarian rule theocracy, with the help of its masters in Iran, who give them money and training and support to carry out terrorism against civilians. They decided to do this, and they didn't, try and find military personnel to attack. It's not a war in the way you think about it. The purpose of their invasion of Israel, and at this moment, still, Israeli soldiers are fighting on Israeli soil to try and defeat terrorists who infiltrated Israel. It's unbelievable to me that something like this could happen. I guess this is kind of my therapy talking to you here. But I am sitting here in my office in Topeka, Kansas. I feel powerless. I want to help. I want to do something. But at this moment, besides contributing to organizations like Friends of the IDF, Magen David Adom, or the Red Star of David, like the Red Cross in other countries, besides things like that, there's not much I can do. I just have to hope and of course pray that the IDF is successful in finally rooting out Hamas. What must happen now is that Hamas must be destroyed. It has to be totally uprooted. Not a single supporter of Hamas, not a single Hamas terrorist can be left to organize more terror. It just can't be allowed. For years, many viewed Hamas as a resistance organization, a political organization, a group that could be tolerated running the Gaza Strip only a couple of kilometers, very few, from the closest Israeli population centers. From my talks with Israelis over the last few days, I now understand, and I think we all feel we should have understood, that can no longer be allowed to continue. Hamas can no longer be tolerated. Hamas must be destroyed. And I pray that swiftly the Israeli Defense Forces will do what is necessary to completely destroy Hamas. It saddens me in a way it doesn't sadden Hamas terrorists or Palestinian resistors in some cases. It saddens me that innocent civilians in Gaza will die as a result of this operation. They will. There's no way to avoid it. War is not a video game. War is not stratego. War is war. And in war, there are civilian casualties. There is, of course, a difference between civilian casualties while trying to avoid them versus people who murder over 1,000 innocent civilians because that's what they intended to do. In addition to kidnapping toddlers and the elderly, as well as other civilians of all ages, women, children, whoever, and kidnapping them and bringing them as hostages to the Gaza Strip. These are things Israel has never and would never do. So there is no, I repeat, there is absolutely no moral equivalence between the actions of Hamas and the actions of the state of Israel. There's just none. There isn't any. There's no excuse, no justification. Israel suffered its own version of 9/11, except, adjusted for population, it would be like as if America lost 30,000 people on 9/11 instead of 3,000. Does that make it worse? I'm not saying it's worse. What I'm saying is it's like that. It's a horrific, horrific loss. And the only thing I can think is that we all have to now understand that we don't live in a world in our heads. What you think doesn't determine reality. Objective reality exists. And if you forget about that, if you allow yourself to be deluded into thinking you can just talk through anything with anyone, anywhere in the world, then you're doing yourself and all innocent people a grave disservice. Not sure what I'm supposed to do on one of these live streams, and I don't just want to yell at you for as long as I feel I have to be here. I'm not an advanced kind of guy. Can I hold up a phone like this? This is probably going to be backwards. You can't even see it. Video footage of about 40 babies were taken out on gurneys, cribs overturned, strollers left behind, doors left wide open. As a reporter, Nicole Zedek for I-24 News surveys the horrific scenes left behind in Kibbutz Kfar Aza, where Hamas invaded and murdered dozens of Israelis in their homes. And again, 40 babies, some of whom were beheaded. You have to... Humanity has tried over the last many thousand years to invent and uphold civilization. The idea that we would be civilized, that instead of humans acting with the most base, contemptible attitude and malicious heart, we could tame ourselves in a way. And there's wisdom that the Talmud teaches that the only animal that is always considered to be mu'ad and never tam, the only animal that is considered to always be at risk of causing destruction and devastation and never to be calm and docile, are humans. Because there's that impulse that lies deep inside of us and the ability of our brains, a majestic creation of God, to be turned to evil and convince ourselves that evil actions are acceptable, when of course they aren't. And we've tried over the last, we thought, many people in the West especially thought that over the last 70, 80, 90 years almost, we were learning how to escape that terrible condition that we all suffer from and instead become enlightened and not believe that people could be capable of this level of brutality. But people are capable of this level of brutality. And it does no good to ignore it. And the only way it can be dealt with is to root it out. This is not a situation in which there's anything else that can be done. It does sadden me that many more people will have to die before this conflict ends. But that's what's going to need to be. Israel must be allowed to prosecute this war. And I'm sure Israel will try and avoid civilian casualties where they can. But it is difficult considering Hamas places its headquarters under a hospital. It puts its rocket launchers in people's living rooms and in mosques. How are we supposed to, it's weapons depots all over civilian population centers. So that if we blow them up, it'll also kill civilians. That's their intention. That's the evil of Hamas. We must all, as humanity, stand together and declare that whatever must be done, Hamas must be dealt with, and the people of Gaza must be freed from Hamas. I hope it happens speedily. As for me, I don't know exactly yet how to process this. I don't yet know how to process all this pain that I'm feeling. I'm seeing here George Takei. George Takei is an idiot. He says the Israeli government has cut off food, water, and fuel to 2 million people inside Gaza. Collective punishment is not only contrary to international law, it is inhumane and illogical. How will this de-escalate the violence rather than radicalize many more? It is madness. Likens it to what his community once endured in World War II because of people who shared an ethnicity. No, George, dummy. It's not. First of all, Israel isn't required to supply food and electricity to a enemy combatant nation. Nobody said, let's make sure that the Germans in World War II, the first thing we need to do is make sure that we have their lights on for them. Because Israel supplies power to the Gaza Strip. Could Gaza have built its own infrastructure? Maybe. They've received billions in dollars in aid in the last decade and a half, but they used it to support their efforts to do terrorism instead of building infrastructure. Because again, Hamas doesn't care about the people of Gaza. And now Israel has to do what it has to do. And George Takei sits here and he wants to talk about, collective punishment. It's not collective punishment. It's a war. As it turns out, it's not against international law to stop supplying in enemy territory with anything. It's not. No one's saying that Ukraine has to give food to Russia. Why would they? That would be stupid. If you can't, yeah, it's just unbelievable. Noting that there is still a border crossing open, not between Gaza, but between Egypt, flee to Egypt, or why can't Egypt supply things to the Gaza Strip? Well, they don't want to. Israel doesn't want to anyway, but is forced to. George Takei isn't talking about the evils of Egypt, just Israel. Well, I mean, I could go through the news, but it's all horrific. The images I've seen will be scarred into my brain forever. Forever. I mean, images I couldn't dare show you. I hold up my phone to show you, things that are happening in the world. But by the way, Times of Israel, great source of news if you're looking for one. CNN has been bad. MSNBC has been literally shilling for terrorists. They trip over themselves trying to defend the motives of people who cut the heads off of babies. That should tell you all you need to know about them. I will never watch that network again. Never give them a single ad dollar in ratings. Absolutely not. We mm. The world needs to come together, and it needs to come together. Oh, I see here 4 Palestinian journalists killed in Israeli Gaza strikes. Yep. Okay. And we have to, the strikes have to continue because we have to get, in the last war with Gaza, it turned out that Western news organizations had offices in the same building as Hamas had a command center. They would have rode the elevator with each other every day. So no thanks on the whole media, the journalists. No, thank you. Not something that's going to stop anybody. Journalists have decided that for some reason, Clarissa Ward on CNN, terrible. She was forced to take cover in a ditch because of Hamas rocket fire. And still, her reporting is biased in favor of Hamas. Maybe she's trying to protect her access to sources because, again, if you don't report pro-Hamas stuff, Hamas won't let you talk to anybody in Gaza because they'll just kill you. That's when you're a terrorist organization, you don't have to play by the rules. Only Israel has to play by the rules and still get condemned for doing so. So I don't know what else I can update you with. It's been horror. Over 1,000 civilians murdered. The glee in some of these videos, the absolute happiness of Hamas terrorists can only be the result of the lifetime of brainwashing they've had. Children's television shows in Gaza, run, of course, approved by Hamas. These children's television shows have all the same fun characters that ours do, except they teach kids how to kill Jews. The schools, run theoretically by the UN refugee, I don't know, it's UNRWA, which grants Palestinians the only, of all the wars in the 40s, the only group that's still considered refugees are the Palestinians, even though they're not. They have places to live. They either live in Gaza or the West Bank, or in any of the countries where they have refugee camps, because those Arab countries won't allow them to become citizens. Somehow that's still Israel's fault. I don't get it, but that's what they say. So I can only pray that may God, who makes peace, make peace for us, for the people of Israel, and eventually for the people of Gaza too. All who are not Hamas have a brighter future. That's what I can say at this time. That's the only remotely positive thought I have, is that maybe when this is all over, there might be a world where no one in that corner of the world has to fear Hamas ever again. That would be at least something. But anyway, that's my review, I guess. This is Rabbi Review's channel. I'm the Sam Stern, the rabbi in Topeka, Kansas. And that's my review so far. Here it's Tuesday, October 10th. It's been, God, it was only October 7th that this all started. Well, I hope to get back to making regular videos. I was making videos and then the High Holy Days happened. And we'll see. But for now, I urge all of you, anyone who watches, be well. Be safe. Hug your family. Pray to God for peace. But not just a peace like a ceasefire. De-escalation is not the priority. Not right now. A just peace. All the people who talk about justice all the time and the various forms of justice, restorative justice, environmental justice, racial justice, economic justice, whatever form of justice, I appeal to the only justice I know, justice. And I say, let there be justice in this situation. Let those who are guilty be held responsible. Let the end of a totalitarian, theocratic terror state, the Gaza Strip controlled by Hamas, let it end. Let it be done. May the IDF be successful. I pray for my friends who are, some of whom and some of their family members, husbands, children, have been called up in a mass mobilization. My heart is in the East. It's with Israel at this terrible, terrible time. But I hope all of you understand this message. I hope you understand. I hope it touches your heart in some way. Anyway, that's where we are. 10 a.m. Central Time, Tuesday, October 10th. May God be with us all.